When I found these pumpkins, I looked beyond their bright orange color. To start, I grabbed two of my favorite colors of paint. I'm going to paint one of the smaller pumpkins in each of these colors, and then I'm going to mix the two together for the largest pumpkin. To make sure the clay releases, I'm going to dust the molds with cornstarch. Now I'm going to fill the flower molds with the clay and make sure it's nice and packed down so it gets into all those little details. With the flowers all made, it's time to arrange them and adhere them to the pumpkin. A little tacky glue all over the back of the flower adheres them really well. With everything ready, I'm going to give the pumpkins and flowers a coat of paint in the same color I used for the first coat. Now that the paint is dry, I want to add a little glaze to highlight the beautiful flowers. Using a small brush really helps to get it into all of those little small spots. After getting it in where I want it, I'm just using a cloth to wipe it off all the high points. Finally, to finish off my pumpkins, I want to add some stems. I can't believe how different these pumpkins look now. I love the soft colors and the pretty flowers.
We have all seen these dollar store pumpkins. I'm going to pull out the top of my pumpkin. But the first thing we want to do is we want to get rid of this orange colour. This has got a nice dry coat of boss on it, and I've actually applied one coat of paint on top as well. We just want the top layer, the layer that has the printing on it. And I'm just taking the edges off. I'm going to make smaller pieces out of this. And I'm just going to apply some glue. Take my first piece of napkin. I'm just going to drop it on top. And then I'm going to use my glue brush, adding a little bit more glue on top. So they're just going to cross over, and it's going to give a really good natural finish. Next thing we need to do is take our stalk and make this a little bit special. I'm going to take some gold paint. Probably going to have to do a few coats of this to make this covered completely. And I found these really cool stick-on tattoos. I will get my water spray, spray it, get it nice and wet on this side. Actually just going to push it onto the pumpkin. And you can kind of see it coming off from the other side. There we go, look at that. How simple. I absolutely love the way that these pumpkins have turned out.
I'm going to start with some artificial pumpkins and a hot glue gun. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and put a pattern on with the glue. Then make sure that you pick off all of the threads. And when you have that all done, you're going to paint. I'm going to paint the stem. Gather them together in the center of a table, put them in a basket or a bowl, and they are the stars of this pretty table.
We're just going to remove the stem off of him. So the first thing I like to do is I like to get a little bit of cornstarch in this. These are silicone, and I just like to kind of just start feeding it into the mold like that. Pressing it down with my fingers. As you can see how nice and easy it is to remove that excess. And then I just flip the mold over and roll it right out. And look at how gorgeous that is. I am going to be using Tight Bond Quick and Thick. I'm just gonna get a generous amount on here. So all I'm doing is I'm just gently kind of pressing it into the groove there without destroying any of the detailing of the mold. So I'm gonna continue around the pumpkin. So I'm just gonna give it a twist and pull it out. Thin piece of clay. And the idea is we just wanna kind of roll it out. It's just like making pie dough. Taking a stamp called Kindest Regards, and all we're gonna do is we're just gonna lay it down here and press into our clay. You want to do nice and firm so you get a nice indentation into the clay here. Oh yeah, look at how nice that is. Making sure we get it all around the edges as well. I'm just going to spread it around a little bit with my hand. I'm going to flip it over. And then just kind of, again, use your hands, kind of fit it around, forming into those grooves. So we're going to let this sit. It has been 24 hours, so our clay is pretty dry. I'm using the color French Eggshell. Going to town here. I'm using a chippy brush. I love these. They have very feathery bristles, which allows you to get into the cracks and crevices really easily. We're just gonna get this clay, all the clay area covered. So for the bottom half of the pumpkin, we're gonna go ahead and use this Rust-Oleum metallic. Obviously we wanna go around that edge of the pumpkin. Doesn't have to be perfect by any means. pulling down the paint. I ended up putting a couple of coats in order for the pumpkin to be completely covered. Taking some acrylic paint. This is called Burnt Umber. So I'm just gonna add some spritzes of water in here. And then you're just gonna start kind of like pouncing your brush down in that scripting detail that is on your pumpkin. And just do a small area at a time and start wiping it away. And you can put on as much or as little as you want. So now for our final step, all I want to do is I'm taking the original stem from the pumpkin and we're going to glue it in place. And for this one, I'm going to use a color, another fusion color called Homestead Blue. Same process as we did before on the little guy. So what we're going to do on this guy, instead of replacing his stem with the original stem, we are going to use this beautiful knob that I picked up. There you have our two beautiful foam pumpkin redo. Aren't they gorgeous?
I found this really cute pumpkin at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to start by using Mondego in black. We're going to go ahead and just base coat. So we're going to let this thoroughly dry. So our paint is completely dry and we're ready for our next step, which is going to be our Artsyville Embellishments foil adhesive. I'll always add just a little bit of water and you'll see that it goes on looking milky white, so it's really easy to see. We're going to go ahead and put 100% coverage on our pumpkin, just like we did the base coat with the Mondego. Okay, let's let this dry. We're grabbing our Wild Leopard Spots Gold. So I'm going to go ahead and lay a piece of this on here as far as it will go. And I like to use just a soft rag to start with and just rub it on. So you're going to have to kind of release it and let it sit down in there. Also try our nail brush as well. Play around and figure out what works best. I'm going to keep going around. So here's our pumpkin, all completely done and on our table.
I'm now going to stencil my design onto this middle bit of the napkin. I've got a really nice dark green here. Okay, that should be enough. Now this is dry and I've cut it into 4 bits. Using an artist's brush and some water, I'm going to paint around a section of leaves because I want to pull this part out. Any glue that you've got, and then taking one of my pieces that I've cut out, going to put it onto my pumpkin like that and smooth it down. And because it's got a white background, it just blends into the pumpkin. So I'm taking the same gel medium that I used before, and then I'm going to take some gold leaf and using a very soft brush, pat it down. And here are my finished pumpkins. I think it's really nice to have glam ones for a change. What do you think?